This is the Sluggo, slant and go.
Georgia Tech, Florida State.
If you're going to ruin this show by doing research,
Notre Dame.
my dentist is a Notre Dame grad.
Definitely smells.
Casey, Beef Cregan, it's Wednesday. For the 34th consecutive Wednesday, we are here talking college football and whatever else comes to mind. Last week we talked about the Tampa Bay Rays, which is pretty cool. And we'll get it more than that maybe during the summer. Hey, but we had here in Kyle, Texas, the thriving metropolis. We had one of those days you talk about New Jersey. It was like 60 degrees and the sun was shining. It was so nice. The wife and I went for a walk at lunch. We're both working from home these days, of course. So we both decided to go for a walk at lunch. So nothing good much has come from the pandemic, but a walk at lunch with the wife, I mean, that's pretty good.
At this point in time, it doesn't get much better. We're having a lot of those days that you don't like. And the reason that people don't live in the Northeast, that's what we're having lately. Schools are closed, even though that most of them are virtual yesterday because we were supposed to have this huge snowstorm. We may have gotten an inch. Today was just that gray New Jersey day, but I ended up by the Statue of Liberty today, which I've never been to, having grown up and lived here before, but I didn't end up at it, but I was right at the edge of the water. It's really pretty neat. So I had a good day, regardless of the weather, I guess. Very
cool. We got out of the house, and that's what I told the wife yesterday. I was going to the grocery store. We only needed like two things, but I needed to get out.
You got to do it.
And I'm a homebody, but I wouldn't plan on being here for a year. So we'll be moving up on a year pretty soon.
Yeah, this tests your homebody statements, doesn't it? It really does. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because like back in April or May, I was like, well, this ain't so bad for me. I knew it was bad for her. She's more social and more into. She wants to be around the people she works with.
People, yeah.
Collaborate, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm good as long as I got a phone. Hey, I saw our friends over at the College Sports Network got the Sluggo podcast on their page.
Yeah, they did. Graham Smith is the head honcho over there. He's a really good guy. And he texted me the other day, said sorry for the delay, but we were able to finally get it up. There's a couple podcasts on there. Definitely some school centric. I know there's a West Virginia podcast up there. There is a college football podcast. And then yours truly, you and I are up there as well. So it's really cool that they're helping us host and distribute this content. So it's really nice of them.
Very, very cool. And, my shirt here, I was telling you and I were talking before. This is my last original. All the next ones will be repeats unless I run to a bundle of money or find another, deal. I don't think they were running out of these, This might be the only one ever made for all I know. Guam Community College. I like the community college ones. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I've been yearning, and I'd love for somebody to send me one to have. Like this year, I'd love an Ohio State national championship shirt. Or last year, I'd love, a Clemson national champion. The ones that they always joke or send overseas somewhere. I want one of those, but yeah, that'd be funny. That would be the cream of the crop for me.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, we do have a little bit of coaching news this week. Josh Heupel going from UCF to Tennessee, which that was their first choice. Didn't interview anybody else or offer the job to anybody else. But first of all, what do you think about Heupel to Tennessee, and will that work? And secondly, does that mean anything for Tony Elliott, maybe to UCF, as I've read a little bit about today?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I kind of wore this shirt on purpose today, right? Because what's his name is the coach of Nebraska, but he was at UCF. Thank you. I was in my mind it was Eric Crouch, and I'm like, I know that's not right. So I'm dating myself here. But Scott Frost went home to Nebraska, and then Josh Heupel comes in behind him, and he was the offensive coordinator at UCF under Frost, and kind of, as somebody said, was given the keys to a Lamborghini and crashed that thing right all over I-4 in Orlando. Ended up 6-5 this year, but there's some familiarity with Danny White, the AD at Tennessee. I think that's a safe hire. I think Heupel has a great offensive mind. I know they were 6-5 at UCF this past year, but they can still sling the ball around. The offense was not the issue in Orlando this year. So I like the hire for Tennessee. If they're trying to be up, Pruitt was a defensive guy. If they're trying to be run and gun, he's got the right guy in place. Now I know it's not a splash hire. Somebody I read on Twitter said that the hit rate for ADs is always 100% because they always say that it was their number one guy that they went after. But there are some reports out there that Clemson folks are saying and hearing that Tony Elliott turned down the job. So maybe if he, or told them he was no longer interested. I like the hire for Tennessee. I'm not a Tennessee guy. I like Rocky Top. I like their fight song. I don't know why. It was, as a kid from the Northeast, I just thought it was really cool to see 100,000 people in that kind of burnt, ugly orange. I like Heupel. I've been kind of partial to UCF in my days in Tampa. Don't tell my Tampa friends that are USF people, but I think they'll be fine. If they're expecting the national championship next year, which I'm sure they are, they're not going to get it. They're going to be disappointed, especially with the sanctions they have. Yeah,
that's a tough job. And is that really what Tony Elliott wanted for his first job? Apparently not. And maybe they didn't actually offer the job, but they, the back channel agent, saying, no, thank you, I'm not interested, so don't even offer me. So you don't have to get turned down. Kevron checks in and says, Coach Elliott staying at Clemson.
I know Clemson folks are excited.
Vols' new head coach is UCF. So, maybe Elliott took a lesson from, first of all, Chad Morris, so eager to get a head job, just jumped out of, now a little bit different circumstances. Chad is from Texas, obviously, and SMU is in the Dallas area. And then Jeff Scott going to University of South Florida, and he struggled this year. I think his only win was over the Citadel, and they got crushed a few times. Looks like a long rebuilding job. And Chad went to Auburn for 1 year, and he's out of a job altogether. And the shine is off Chad a little bit, I think, after those last two stops. Now, he's not in the poorhouse. He's not struggling for money, I don't think. No. So, but he's also not in a great situation like he was at Clemson. So maybe, Tony took a step back and said, this isn't what I want. This isn't the right situation. I'll hang out here and win 11 games, go to the college football playoff, and pick the job that I want.
Yeah, and like you said, and I know I went long-winded, but about UCF and him, I brought that up. I put it all over the page. I put it all over JP Priester's stuff at Clemson Junkies and SI on all of his pages, that I thought that UCF would be more appealing to Tony Elliott than Tennessee. I mean, they have the Gabriel kid that's coming back, the quarterback that can absolutely sling it. He's probably got to work a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, but he's in Orlando, in the east side of Orlando, so he's away from the hubbub, and it's not in the city of Orlando. It's way out east, close to the beach. It's a good spot, up-and-coming area. I hate to say it, but it's kind of a little bit like Clemson out there. In two main streets with all restaurants and everything that you need. You don't have to go very far. It's a stadium on campus. It gets crazy. It gets loud. It's small. But I just think that it's a better job for him, first job out, no sanctions. You're going to get the keys to the Lamborghini there and see what you can do. And the offense is already set, so you're still going to look good when your offense is still good. You're going to beat the crap out of Jeff Scott probably at USF, and then you have the war on I-4, and it's two former Clemson offensive coordinators. That's got a lot of shine for me personally, but I've gotten shot down. I haven't seen Elliott's name on any of the coaching searches. JP Priester shot me down pretty good, and which understandably, but me, I'll go out on the ledge and put myself out there a little bit. I just think that job for Tony Elliott, first job out, would have been a better fit for him than Tennessee.
Now, you said you were posting it all over Twitter and all over JP Priester's pages. So were these your burner accounts or your Sluggo accounts? Which accounts were these?
I don't know. It's tough to keep up sometimes.
No doubt. I've got Sluggo and Seldom Used Reserve, and sometimes half the time I don't know what to post on either. There's only two of them, so I can't imagine being the beef. Hey, one thing you said, though, Josh Heupel may be an offensive mastermind, but, I mean, what's the old saying? It's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes. So good luck at Tennessee. Of course, the SEC East is not as hard as the West in general, but, you know, there's still Georgia there, and Missouri's not a bad team. And there's a couple, Florida, obviously. So, and their cross-division rival is Alabama, so they play them every year. Good luck at Tennessee.
I heard Houston Burnett said that they lost 22 players already into the transfer portal there at Tennessee also. So it's gonna be a job for Heupel here.
I saw last week that there was like 1,200 players in the transfer portal. I didn't realize half of them were from Tennessee, but good Lord, 22 of them. All right, Beef. I know most people think and I asked you this the other day, when does spring practice start? Because I wanted to write another article for the College Sports Network, or I have one in mind. But I all of a sudden realized that the football championship subdivision will be starting up in a few weeks. I checked this out last night. I did show prep, 30, 45 seconds worth. And which is 30 or 45 seconds, probably more than you did. But that's beside the point. It's all over the map. Some start on the 20th of February. Some don't start till March the 6th. I think the last one starts March the 13th. They end at different times. It's chaos. Well, and I thought about it. First of all, I thought it was chaos. And I said, well, that's how the bowl division started, right? Because the ACC started and the SEC was later, and the Big Ten said, oh, we're in later. So more of the same, I guess. But at least we'll have real, actual football. We ain't talking about practice. We're talking about football.
Yeah, I looked. I had a website up. I think it was ncaa.com. That's what I'm looking at here on my phone. The Big Sky starts February 27th. I'm gonna have to get used to who's in these conferences. I have a personal favorite, which is from the CAA. That's all I know. I think it's the Coastal Atlantic. I don't know. I don't even know. Colonial Athletic Conference. Producer just whispered in my ear. Patriot League not playing. Ivy League's not playing. NEC, Northeastern Conference, not playing. But we have the Southland, the SWAC, the SoCon, the Ohio Valley Conference. That's like the Maction, the minor league Maction. We got the MVFC. Missouri Valley, the Big South, and the Big Sky. So we got some football to watch, and it's exciting. I love that tournament at the end of the year, and when the time is right, that they're going kind of coinciding with the college football world towards the end of the season. It's fun to watch. Wisconsin Whitewater, and I know that's Division III, but those schools, and then James Madison is the 1AA team I watch.
And it's really weird because remember, North Dakota played one game in the fall, and the Citadel played a few. Now they're playing a few more in the spring. It's just, what a year. What a crazy, bizarre, wacko year. And they're playing the 2020 season in 2021. It is just crazy. Awesome. It's awesome and crazy at the same time, because we're going to be able to turn on our TVs, I'm assuming, sometime in February and watch an actual game and not a spring practice game. Though they may look similar. Who knows?
I can't wait to discuss Mercer at Wofford. I mean, I'm so stoked at that. VMI in Chattanooga. That's all February 20th. We're ready to go.
Let's roll. We'll have to do a live show. But this brought up something that I wanted to talk about, because when I was growing up in South Carolina, there were only 8 teams that had football. 8 colleges that had football teams. Clemson, South Carolina, of course, South Carolina State, the Citadel, Presbyterian, Newberry, Wofford, and I'm missing somebody there real quick. Turgey's checking in. How you doing, Turgey?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. So there were only 8 teams, and as I rolled those off, a lot of them were small colleges. But the first college game I ever went to was the Citadel playing is either Richmond or Virginia Tech, which back then was called VPI, and I think that's probably still their legal name or whatever. Virginia Polytechnic Institute. And they were in the Southern Conference back then. That's how old I am. They did not have leather helmets. They had regular helmets. But the Citadel was my favorite football championship team because, one, I have about 400 friends. Being from Charleston, growing up in Charleston, I had about 400 friends who went to the Citadel. It was the first college football game I ever saw was the Citadel game. And there's a famous, inside my family, picture of me crying my eyes out as a 6-year-old because my sister, who married, had children with, and then divorced a Citadel cadet. He was a cadet at the time or a recent graduate. I think both, actually. They would take me, the little brother, to the football games. And that day, they didn't want to sit there. Now, remember, they're teenagers. They didn't want to sit there because it was raining. I didn't give a damn. I was 6 years old, and I want to see college football, right? And I was just bawling my eyes out. So there's this famous picture of my family, me crying because I didn't get to see the Citadel and Richmond or somebody play. But that's the team I still follow to this day. I had a lot of friends, none of them that actually played there, but a lot of friends who went to the Citadel. So it stirred me to ask the question, who's your favorite FCS team?
Yeah, I've seen it a bunch this week on Twitter and many of my burner accounts. People asking, especially Mark Ryan at ESPN Radio Upstate. I've seen all sorts of folks putting Furman and Wofford. And like I said previous, the school that I root for, which is weird because it's a place I really wanted to go to school, was James Madison University. Right. James Madison is in Harrisonburg, Virginia. It's right off I-81 in Virginia. Literally, you see it from the highway, from the interstate. I didn't get in. I was very bitter about that. Still to this day, people know how bitter I am. But man, their football team is pretty good, and I like watching they throw it around the field. They're a lot of fun to watch. Their stadium is probably the biggest FCS stadium in the country. It used to be nothing, but as soon as they started winning, they started building this thing up. It's enormous. It's steep as can be too, and it's a really neat spot. So I pull for the Royal Dukes and James Madison.
Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten that. You'd mentioned that, I think, on the other podcast when we first connected and we're talking that you had wanted to go to James Madison.
I'm glad it worked out the way it did, but all worked out for a reason. But man, I wanted to go since I was in 8th grade. I wanted to go to JMU.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here talking if you went to James Madison about the Mighty Dukes, but good team. And you were talking about a Division III team earlier, I think in Whitewater. I had a nephew who played for Lenore-Rhine when – is this like 20 degrees of separation? His coach at Lenore-Rhine was the coach who went to the Citadel and then I think to James Madison and is now at East Carolina. I can't even keep up with the dude.
Yeah.
He's all over the place. Yeah, he was a long snapper. He was like 5'10", 148-pound long snapper. But they had a very good team a couple of years. He played for Gaffney, the famous Gaffney Indians in South Carolina.
Sure.
He was on the team, didn't play too much. Yeah. Yeah, so that is my favorite. I still follow them a little bit, but it's advanced so much. I used to have to watch this game like on a grainy TV screen or computer screen, I should say. And I wanted to talk about the Levines too, because I'm working. Football season's over, so I'm back on the book, Patrice. So I'm getting there. I'm on about page 185 right now, so I'm getting there. That was on my list to talk about. But anyway,
I'm not. You're about 180 pages further than I am.
Well, we know the guys from the Chopping Beef. If I never learned anything from that show, you have trouble reading. Between you and Zach, I think you put in like 4 pages in a year, right?
Yeah, I got 3 books for Christmas, and I include their book. It's right over there. I mean, it's literally at my desk. And I've read a total of to Patrice's credit, I've read more of her book than any of the other 2 books that I got for Christmas. But yeah, no, I haven't.
I'm gonna get there. Probably in the next couple of weeks or so. It's when I take my breaks during the day. That's what I do. I read a few pages and hang out. All right. Some sad news. yesterday, and it's sad news, but it also I learned something. I live in the Austin area. I live the next 2 towns south of Austin, but on the other side of Austin is Pflugerville, and I had no idea that Todd Schonar, former Clemson quarterback, the holder for one of David Treadwell's field goals to beat Georgia. I think he was the 86. It was the 86 year that I posted on Seldom Used Reserve today. Passed away from COVID yesterday morning. So a little bit of sad news, but he's famous for that hold, the Jim Phillips call. I posted a video today of Schonar to hold, and I posted that. I tagged one of the players at Pflugerville. I think it's Pflugerville High. I don't think it's Pflugerville High. I think it's in the city of Pflugerville.
Yeah.
And they loved it. They enjoyed it. It's been retweeted a few times by coaches and players, and that meant a lot to me. I didn't know who Todd Schonar was, honestly, except for that hold. And I was in school at the same time, but it kind of brings you back to the reality of what's going on in the world. He's someone my age who's died of COVID, and I had COVID back in the summer. So I feel lucky to be here because I've had health problems in the past, and I made it through relatively unscathed. So a little bit of sad news.
Yeah, it is sad. It's sad anytime you lose somebody in this day and age and the world we're living in right now. It's just even more accentuated by when you lose somebody. So thoughts and prayers, T's and P's out to his family, but in all sincerity from us.
Yeah. And one of the videos around that on the news article I posted was old Chris Lancaster too, the big redhead fullback that used to just bust people in the mouth and paid for it with a neck injury.
Yeah, I didn't know these guys. I was very lucky to have crossed paths many times with Jim Phillips, especially working for the basketball team. He was there towards the end. Well, I guess it wasn't towards the end of his life, but it was close in 95 to 2000. And he was just a gentleman, man. What a nice guy he was. And that voice was as genuine on the mic as it was off. He sounded exactly the same, which makes it even more special for an announcer. There was no glamming it up. That was Jim Phillips.
It is kind of interesting when I'm able to find a video. Of course, he was doing radio for Clemson. So when I can find a video with Jim Phillips' voice in there, not a time goes by that somebody doesn't make a comment about, I miss Jim Phillips. That's Jim Phillips. I love Jim Phillips. So all these years later, and that's my first introduction to Clemson football, is playing in the front yard, playing football in the front yard with Jim Phillips on the radio, calling the Clemson game. And that's how I became known to, that's how I can't even speak. That's how I was introduced to Clemson football.
I'm rubbing off on you, Marty. I'm rubbing off on you.
If you can't speak, you're in trouble because that's how you feed your family. So good. You need to straighten it up. Hey, we were speaking about the transfer portal earlier, and the 1,248 players, most of which belong to the University of Tennessee or did belong to the University of Tennessee. But Clemson had a player join the transfer portal this week. Interesting range, $6 for the vets. Intriguing range of emotions from Clemson fans. Most that I saw, now I'm not on Twitter as much as you are apparently, but most that I saw were happy for him and wished him good luck. Some didn't understand it, and you always have your outliers who are going to say he was scared of competition or whatever. I don't understand why you just can't let the guy live his life. He doesn't owe you a thing. If he was a Joe Blow architecture student who decided to transfer, you wouldn't say a word, right?
Good luck to him.
Yeah. But anyway, your thoughts on that transfer and what that means for Clemson in 2021. They had their 11 defensive starters returning, and now they don't, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was a shock. I thought there was going to be attrition. I read a lot of JP stuff and a lot of those guys, and I watch a lot of shows. I watch the Morgan Thomas show. I watch Ellis. I watch a lot of them. I watch Mark Childress, so I get a lot of their I don't know, insight, I guess. Yeah. But when I saw it, I was a little bit like, really? Where's he going to go? Then you dig a little bit and you read a little bit. He already graduated in 3 years. He still has 3 years of eligibility. Someone said it on Twitter. I wish I could attribute it to who it was. But they basically said he's having a second career. So he can go somewhere and play for 3 years and have another career.
Yeah.
I know Tim Beret put out that tweet that no one that has left Clemson on their own volition to the transfer market has ever played a snap in the NFL. That's interesting. I don't know you any money, but that's an interesting stat there too. I didn't think about it that way. I think there's some chance here with the 3 guys that have now left Clemson on their own accord. I was surprised by it. I really was, especially as vocal as he was over the summer for everything that was going on in and around Clemson and surrounding Dabo Sweeney. I thought he is a Clemson man, right? He is what that definition of a Clemson man is. He is that. So I was surprised to see it was his name that was that is leaving. But then once again, you start digging and you see Trenton Simpson played a lot of snaps and in fact started more games, I think, than he started at least 6, I believe. Then Mike Jones. And then you have a guy like Barrett Carter, who, if he comes in half as much as he's advertised, he may challenge for playing time immediately. So I don't know if it was a competition thing necessarily, or you just want to go be a stud somewhere, and you're probably going to be the second guy in the rotation. He was going to play a lot, I think. Maybe his snaps were going to go down a little bit, but he's still going to be on TV every week. He's still going to be playing for one of the top teams. He's still going to be making plays. I was a little shocked by it. I like the other side of it. I like to see where you end up. There's a rumor mill going around everywhere. He may go to USF to play with Jeff Scott. If he goes down there, he'd be the best player on the defense day one.
Yeah.
But that's not saying all that much. But I like that other side. Once again, short-windedly, I was very shocked that it was him. But then you start digging a little bit, and you tip your cap to the guy. And a lot of the players, Braden Galloway came out and said, "Love you, Six. Go be great." There was a few other players that came out and said, "Go do your thing." Chase Bryce said, "Go be great." That kind of thing. So, maybe the writing was on the wall. Maybe they knew more than we do as fans.
Yeah, and who knows? He may have just wanted to change the scenery, and that's not. There's no. I don't see it as a negative. A lot of it's surprise, yes, but I don't see it as a negative. I think. Remember a few years ago when Scott Pagano transferred after the championship season? Yeah. I was shocked. I was like, well, wait a second. Because I'd already counted for next year for one. And that's the selfish part of it. But then you go, why would you want to leave? And just have to remember, these guys are 18 or 20-year-old kids, and they want maybe this is it. This is it for them, this is their only shot. They're not going to, be 27 years old and get another shot at college football. Like I said it earlier, and I'm repeating myself, which not surprising, is that if they were not football players, nobody would care. Nobody would care if a third-year, junior, secondary, elementary education major from Charleston decided to transfer to the College of Charleston, right?
Yeah.
So I let them do what they want to do, as long as it's within the rules, and obviously they can transfer all they want these days. Last week we talked a little bit about recruiting. I gave a really bad review summary of Cade Klubnik and Quinn Ewers. They're both juniors. They're both class of 2022. Been reading a little bit on this week. I know everybody loves recruiting, so we're going to talk some recruiting here and there. And I watched the championship game. As I said, Klubnik outplayed Ewers. Doesn't mean he's a better long-term prospect. I think they're different. Ewers is more compact. Klubnik is taller, slender. Didn't see the running capability really from either of them that Clemson's used to, either with Deshaun or Trevor. Doesn't mean they can't run. They both had runs and gained first downs and did things with their legs. Just didn't look the same. Obviously, they're juniors in high school. They're 17, 18 years old. They're young. They can still develop. That's why I'm sitting here talking to you and not evaluating high school players for a living. But I wanted to say a couple of things because I've been hearing that Klubnik is showing a little more interest in Clemson, waiting for the offer, hoping for an offer. His high school, again, for those who maybe missed out last week, what a pedigree. Drew Brees, Nick Foles, Sam Ehlinger. Only one of those went to the University of Texas. Breeze was short even back in the 90s when he was in high school. He was considered short, and Texas didn't recruit him, and he ended up at Purdue. Mac Brown caught heck for that. Foles was not short, and I'm not sure why. I don't even remember if Texas offered Foles, and many people don't know this. He started out at Michigan State, ended up at Arizona. His dad owned some high-end restaurants here in Austin and in Arizona, which is, I don't know if they have a home in Arizona or what. But anyway, neither of those guys went to Texas. Sam Elder did. Their high school stadium is 7 miles from Texas's stadium, okay? Klubnik's parents went to Texas A&M, both of them, not one, not the other. Both of them went to A&M. It's going to be an uphill climb, I believe, for them to sign Klubnik. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. I just see it as an uphill climb. When you're here, you're living in this area where I live in Central Texas, you're living, breathing Texas Longhorns or Texas Aggies. In South Carolina, Clemson, South Carolina, if you're on that level. But here, it's Texas and with a little bit of A&M mixed in this area. So I think it's going to be a hard pull. And, and who knows what Ty Simpson's going to do. Supposedly going to make a choice sometime in the relatively near future. Clemson needs a quarterback for the 2022 class, if you ask me.
Yeah, Ty Simpson, there was articles this week on him and what he's going to do. He was definitely Tennessee's in the mix there. So you wonder if Josh Heupel is the guy that can sway him to go there. We're not sure. He had Alabama on his list as well, so you never know there. That pedigree is pretty good, but he would sit there behind Bryce Young. And then at Clemson, same idea behind DJ. So it'd be interesting to see if Ty Simpson comes, and if he does not, I think he's got an announced date relatively soon, maybe over the summer, maybe a little further out. I'll update that next week. But then I think the next guy would be Klubnik, and we'll see if he's waiting for an offer and says those magical words, "dream school." Then he's probably definitely going to go to Texas A&M.
Yeah, those are hard pulls. It's like going to D.W. Daniel High School almost. I mean, Westlake is literally 7 miles. I did the Google Map thing. Their stadium is 7 miles from the UT stadium. So, and his parents went to A&M. Both of those are things that resonate with kids that grow up playing high school football in Texas. Now, it didn't for Drew Brees or Nick Foles, or at least that's the funny thing. You were talking earlier about how Tennessee's first choice, they don't want to offer the coach a job without knowing that he'll accept it. That's how Mac used to recruit. He would not, he would say, "Well, we only offered 24 and we got 23 of them," because he would not offer someone until he was sure they were coming, because he didn't want the perception out there that he was rejected. So it works both ways with players and coaches. All right, Casey, we have to talk about it. Clemson basketball in about an hour will be taking on Louisville. Much to my surprise, Clemson is favored, and I'm wondering what have they watched them play lately? Clemson basketball has fallen off a cliff and have to face Louisville tonight. Now the stats look pretty even. I checked them out. More show research, another 45 seconds of show research. Louisville's better on the offensive end, of course. Most teams are than Clemson. Clemson's got a little bit better defense, though that hasn't shown up in the last few games that I've seen. But Louisville has advantages in rebounding and true field goal percentage. So give me your thoughts on Clemson basketball as a whole and what you think is going to happen tonight against Louisville.
Here's my very elementary way to say it. I think before the 3 games against Virginia, Florida State, and Georgia Tech, I looked forward to the nights that Clemson basketball was playing. I would turn it on and like be excited the whole day. And that probably hasn't been that feeling since maybe of Oliver Purnell year and definitely the Rick Barnes era, where I was looking forward to every night that team was playing because you knew that you were going to get a great effort. This team gave me great efforts throughout the whole first 10 games. The 9-1, they started 9-1, and every game was a fantastic effort, top to bottom. Amir Sims would get in foul trouble. PJ Hall would step up. Nick Honor would step up. Chase Hunter would step up. You name them. Clyde Trapp would step up. John Newman in spots. I mean, I can go up and down the lineup. They're fantastic. The last 3 games, it's like, and everyone was blaming COVID, and you can, I guess, you get that excuse for that first game against Virginia, but that was a very good Virginia team. But then you literally lay an egg. You lose by 35 points to a very good Virginia team, and they shot 180% from the field. But then you go into the next game, and you had 27 days off. Georgia Tech had 27 days off from COVID stuff. And lay another egg, and they're hitting shots, and they win by 18 points. And it wasn't that close. Yeah. Then you're like, all right, so here we go. Now Clemson beat Florida State the first game, but man, they are good. They're good. And it was a very great effort by Clemson the first time around. That game wasn't close. I mean, I don't turn Clemson events off. I don't leave them early. I don't turn the games off. I turned it off. I was actually texting back and forth with another show's co-host, and I told him that I don't turn it off, and I turned it off. So I just was really frustrated at him, and I'm not a fire a coach guy. I'm not that guy. I won't be. I can't be. They're not shooting the ball for us. But Clemson cannot shoot, and it's been the same story. So the argument that was given back to me was, if it's the same story over and over again, where does that lead? That leads to the top. So I get it, but it was off the record, so I'm not naming names. But Clemson has had plenty of open shots and has not been able to knock them down. Brownell is very open and honest in his press conferences. He said that, and that's got to be frustrating when you're down. They hit the first shot of the game this week against Florida State. I think you texted me, hey, we hit the first shot, or Nelson did. We're up 2-0. It's like, woo! And then it was like 18-2 before you could blink. And it's just got to be deflating for the guys. And this, the last thing I'll spout out for probably another 10 minutes is the depth. The depth of Clemson is very good. But in the 3-game losing streak here, it's like any group he puts on the floor doesn't mesh. I don't know what they're doing. Nobody looks good. Nick Honor didn't play until the second TV timeout, the under 12 timeout. He's been the best player in the majority of your games for your team. He always comes up with a defensive stop when you need it, and he hits a big shot, and he wasn't on the floor. Is he healthy? We don't know that stuff. Is he in the doghouse? We don't know. We don't know. Maybe it's a matchup thing. Brownell always has a different lineup to start the game. I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he's too small against the 6'8" point guard that's going to be a lottery pick for Florida State. But they're frustrating. And tonight, like, I want to turn it on, but I don't know if I want to turn it on.
Yeah. Yeah, and Florida State is you were talking about Virginia being a bad matchup for Clemson. Florida State's a bad matchup for Clemson. And as you said, I know Clemson won the first game, but when you look out there, and as you said, there's a 6'8" point guard and a 7'27" forward. And like they're the tallest. I think they're one of the tallest teams in the nation, if I'm not mistaken. So that is a tough matchup. Now Georgia Tech, as you know from the text I sent you, I thought the same thing. Like, well, 27 days they haven't played a game. Remember how bad Clemson looked when they came back? Georgia Tech's going to look like that. Georgia Tech looked like they were ready to roll. So who knows? I mean, I don't know. What I've seen the last few games really blowing it up, big picture, is just kind of like the old Clemson, right? Not the first 10-game Clemson, the last year Clemson that has trouble getting the ball over half court, or dribbles and throws something up with 2 seconds to go on the shot clock, inexplicably turns the ball over. That wasn't happening in the first 10 games against really good competition, right?
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't happening in the first 10 games, and they've told us none of the players had COVID. It was the coaching staff and other staff. But man, they just do not look the same since that layoff. So,
and he hangs his hat on playing defense.
Well, they were number one. I tweeted that out. Guess who's number? Clemson is playing Virginia. Guess which team's number one in the nation in defense?
Clemson.
Yeah, and the next day they were 13th. That's how bad that game was.
Well, the first time Florida State's Scotty Barnes, the heralded freshman, the highest-rated freshman of Leonard Hamilton's illustrious coaching career, was in foul trouble most of the game. He played a lot this last time out, the last weekend, I guess it was, and he was getting to the basket at will. It didn't matter. We weren't stopping. I say we. Clemson was not stopping them at all. There was no one was stepping in. There was no help side defense coming on the back end to stop a pick. They were throwing alley-oops. I mean, it looked like that the players had checked out. And you saw them on the sideline, and they were hooting and hollering and trying to amp each other up, and then they'd miss 2 shots and allow open baskets. It's frustrating. I hope they get it back together because I truly like this team. I like the makeup of it a lot. I love the depth of it. I like the players. I like the attitudes on the team. I happen to like Brownell. I think he and his players love him. And as somebody told me the other day, Muschamp's players loved him too. So there's something to be said about that comment. So I'll watch tonight. I will. I'll watch it and go to bed late. And we'll see. Hopefully we're talking about a win next week.
Yeah, hopefully we're talking about a win. You know, one thing I noticed, last thing I'll say on this team is they don't get to the free throw line very often. And
well, what does that say?
Yeah, well, it says to me, as I said about the old team, they can't create their own shots. They're not fooling anybody, and they have to throw something up. And you know, the rebound stats show that they're not doing it right now. And if you're playing Florida State with the tall guys we're just talking about, they're going to get to the line because you're going to have to foul them.
They're going to the basket. They're getting to the rim. Yeah, you're going to foul them. They're out in transition.
Some of those alley-oops you were talking about that I'm having nightmares over. I thought that guy from Georgia Tech was going to bring down the rim like 1980. I saw Michael Jordan. This is how old I am. I saw Michael Jordan slam one at Little John. He broke away. He's at half court by himself, and I swear all 10,800 people just got – and it went slam, and the place went crazy. And it wasn't any North Carolina fans there, but everybody still you recognize greatness. So that looked like that rim rocker the other day. All right, Casey, we're going to keep it short tonight because we've got to do our studying about the Missouri Valley Football Conference and the CAA. Did you ever figure out what that meant, whatever conference that is?
Colonial Athletic Conference.
Colonial Athletic Conference. FCS football coming up soon. Case, if you would do the outro while I try and figure out how to get the music playing.
Of course, I'd love to. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for listening to us and laughing with us. Thanks so much for the interaction that you guys give us each and every week. Thanks to everyone in the Facebook group, especially Nelson Wilhite for all his help always and policing that. And also calling Josh Heupel to Tennessee. I'll give him credit here. Credit is due. Everyone on Seldom Used Reserve, Sluggo Podcast, and Chop and Beef, which records tomorrow night, Thursday night. Each and everyone who listens, likes, and shares, we appreciate it. On behalf of Seldom Used Reserve, Marty Coleman, I am Casey the Beef Cregan. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week right here on Sluggo.
Get your Spartles.
I think that sounds pretty good.